Welcome back for episode 7 of Following Freak Show, a show dedicated to discussing last night's episode of American Horror Story Freak Show. I'm your moderator, Perry Nemiroff, and here are our panelists.
Hi, I'm Alexis Sarla.
Hi, I'm Meg Patterson.
All right, Sasha is in LA. There's a chance she may be joining us in the middle of the episode, but she's off doing cool stuff out there, so we're going to take it ourselves this week. And in episode 7, Test of Strength, Stanley decides that it's time to recruit someone else to do his dirty work for him, so he ends up blackmailing Dell into getting a freak for him to display at the Morbidity Museum, and then in the process, Dell and Jimmy get some bonding time, if you could even call it that. Let's kick things off with the centerpiece of this episode, Dell. Alexis, do you want to run through what he's up to this episode?
Yeah, so of course we saw that he's got caught out at the gay bar, which, I mean, I don't know how much of a threat that really is, but to Dell, that was a serious threat, I guess. He doesn't want anyone to know. So instead of just killing Stanley because he had some witnesses around, he unfortunately has to do his bidding. And he first tries to take out Amazon Eve, which I was like, that's the worst choice of all the freaks. That's a huge...
I think that's what it says in my show notes. I'm like, Dell is stupid.
And she awesomely kicks his ass, which I think everybody was cheering for. Then I think he was pondering taking Jimmy out, getting him drunk, and giving him over to the museum. But in the end, he had that nice change of heart. I thought he was finally going to have a breakthrough with that character, and admitting Jimmy was his son and being protective of him and telling him not to be ashamed. And then, at the end, he went and took out sad Ma Petite in that awful scene.
Yeah, I can't really handle that. We'll have a whole section dedicated to Ma Petite later, where I'm sure we will unleash all the feels on this episode. I'm not happy with Dell, though.
No, and in the meantime, the ladies of the Freak Show are not happy with him either, and hopefully we're going to see some action there.
I don't entirely understand what they're doing with Dell. Like, how do they want us to feel about him at this point? Because they're playing that same game with Elsa, too, where it's like she does something so, like, shitty and mean that she can't come back from, and then all of a sudden it's like, it's that same shot of them, like, looking out into the distance, and you think they're being remorseful, but then 2 seconds later they do something terrible.
Yeah.
I don't get that game. It's not getting the characters anywhere except making them more unlikable.
Right. And also, I really have an issue that all these gay characters are so evil. Like, I obviously Ryan Murphy is gay, but I just don't understand why he insists on, we can't have one good gay man on the show.
Who are the other bad ones?
Well, Stanley.
Oh, Stanley's bad. Yeah.
And then Dandy may or may not be, but he's pretty stereotypical.
That was one thing that I did appreciate at least, about the whole Stanley-Dell thing, was that it made sense for them to be in that bar together. It's
true.
What are the odds that there's another gay bar anywhere near that freak show? So at least that part made sense. But, I mean, Dell just can't be in a worse position with me right now. I mean, and it's the same shit with Elsa. It's like, you can't escape death. Like with her and Edward Mordrake. She gets out of it, and then all of a sudden she turns around and she's back to her old business again. And it's the same shit with Dell. And it's really unfortunate because that scene with Jimmy could have fixed it. Like, I thought that once he attacked Amazon Eve, I was going to completely write him off and never be able to like him ever again. But then all of a sudden he went to the bar. Actually, it's another good point to bring up. So it's one thing when, like, I'm trying to think of an example where actually with Meep. So it's one thing when, like, Dell is somewhat responsible for Meep's death in that respect, but it's a different thing when you see a character, like, put their hands on another character to try to kill them. It's really hard to come back from that, and, like, Dell's long gone at this point. But he almost did it. That scene with Jimmy was good enough to fix it. Like, if that scene had panned out the way I was hoping it would, and the two of them were just, like, father-son, and they, like, joined forces and he pulled him back to the good side, I would have bought it. But then he goes outside and he picks up a freaking brick?
Right.
What logic is there?
The characters are very illogical. Also, like, I get that Stanley had something on him, but he could have killed Stanley somehow, or outed him, or somehow told the freaks what Stanley was up to. I mean, whether or not they would have believed him. There were other options, I thought.
There were. And, was Maggie really spying on them 24/7? No.
Yeah.
And can Stanley defend himself? No. All right, let's talk a little bit about the title of this episode, Test of Strength. Meg, do you want to go into the theme that kind of came out of that?
Yeah, actually, back to the whole Dell thing. I mean, Stanley's testing Dell the whole time to kill one of his own, which, it's testing his relationship with Jimmy. And I thought what might come out of that whole thing was that Jimmy would then be on Dell's side, and it'd be kind of like the two of them pitted against the rest of the freaks that saw the whole Amazon Eve thing go down. So that still could happen. I'm not really sure how that's going to go down. And then Dell's action test the internal trust of the freaks, because we haven't seen them really go against their own. And here we kind of have that situation set up for them. And then, Bet and Dot test Elsa, and they're also kind of testing themselves and hiding things from each other, and then seeing their loyalty to each other tested against Dandy, and ultimately they kind of choose the sisters, but she still wants a surgery. So it's this whole weird internal test with the two of them.
I like that three-way thing going on with the twins and Elsa. I like that the twins are finally, doing something. We've seen them make decisions before, but this is the first time I think that they're actually... going trying to manipulate Elsa, and I kind of like it.
Yeah, I think they're realizing they really do have some power. And I loved Dot as a blonde, or Bet as a blonde.
That looks good.
It's kind of cool seeing the two of them look so drastically different after seeing them look exactly the same, minus a bow or a headband or something.
Right. But it's so sad that Bet was like, I will side with my sister and leave Dandy, but then Dot is still trying to literally stab her in the back.
See, that's the perfect example of a kind of back and forth relationship and a pattern of behavior that's working, because every time one of them thinks, it's like Dot's dream of getting that surgery is kind of understandable to a point. It's like we don't want Bet to die, obviously, but you can kind of see why she wants it so badly. Whereas with Elsa and Dell, their behavior is it's delusional and almost unjustified at this point, and it's the same issues are being beaten over, we're being beaten with them so many times over, and it's not getting anywhere. Whereas, Bet and Dot at least are making some sort of progress and becoming really interesting characters.
Right. And when Stanley at the end, why not just let Elsa believe he's going to take them to Chicago for surgery? Why do we have to lay it out that he's going to kill them?
That's another test.
And it's
I guess,
what does he get out of that? I would have thought
trust, I guess.
He'll get them for the Morbidity Museum, but in that conversation with Elsa, there was no reason for us to believe that he would go for it, from her perspective.
Right.
He's just going to do her dirty work. Doesn't he want to say, what I get out of it? Or, try to get something out of her,
Yeah.
A little more? I don't know. I wasn't entirely buying that.
Well, I have to say, the satisfying ending I would like to see would be Stanley himself ending up in the Morbidity Museum for whatever's going on down there.
And also, apparently we know now that just about anybody in this show can become a freak, because poor Penny is back, and now she's not leaving.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that happened.
That was out of nowhere. That was crazy.
It was out of nowhere, but I think I like it. And also, I like that it makes... that it kind of ensures that Paul will be a bigger presence throughout the season, because, I hope to God that they don't brush this off too quickly and they really delve into it, but that pretty much guarantees that he's going to have a big arc with her throughout the next few episodes at least.
Yeah.
I don't know how many episodes she actually makes it into, but, I mean, that's a freak act right there. They turned her into a snake, so that'll be her thing.
That's true. I just didn't understand the motivation of her dad. I mean, he doesn't want her to embarrass the family by running away with the freaks, so he turns her into a freak. I was sort of I get he's just an evil dad. I guess it's another case of he's just evil, so...
It made no sense at all. It was kind of just a leap. Also because they were not in the show for very long. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people didn't even realize who she was. She popped up out of nowhere again.
Yeah.
So... I don't know, that whole thing definitely happened a little too fast, and after his whole speech about ruining his name and the bloodline and all that, he essentially did just that, unless he's hoping people just don't recognize her. Maybe that'll be a thing. I don't know, but...
Or don't believe her, but if I were her, I'd be like, my dad, the electrician, did this to me.
Well, you would think.
It looks like she gets her revenge, too. I don't want to read too much into previews, but, it shows her, stabbing and blood, so I'm sure that'll get resolved.
I wouldn't mind seeing that resolved.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about one of the big things from last night, poor Ma Petite. I was checking out some of the Twitter reactions to her death, and people weren't happy about it, and I feel it. So, Alexis, what do you think about that?
Well, I think they had to take someone who was pure and innocent and was sort of a fan. I know she was sort of a fan favorite. I think basically I was wondering the last episode of this episode, I was like, oh, we haven't had a very high body count yet. And if they're going to let Paul live, I think they had to take someone equally sad from us. And that was just so, the way that it happened was awful, and that she was in that glass jar at the end.
Mm-hmm. No, I wasn't happy about that. And I'm someone who loves horror movies, and I can watch anybody get ripped limb from limb and have totally terrible things happen to them, and I can kind of see the entertainment in it still. But last night it kind of crossed that line, and it felt really inappropriate. It's like last time when Maggie kind of had that dream sequence where she killed Ma Petite. That made me so incredibly uncomfortable, and then. But in the end, when they revealed that it never really happened, it's like I could breathe a sigh of relief and be like, that was nuts. But this time, no, it kind of just left me with a really uncomfortable pit in my stomach, and it made me really sad. I just think that Ma Petite was the worst possible person to do that to. I mean, I don't want to see Legless Susie go either, but if you're going to take that route, go for her. Someone who has is a little tougher and has has somewhat of a chance of defending herself, maybe. Yeah. But the fact that Ma Petite was so helpless, it's made me
and
so
it makes
sad.
Dell all the worse, I think.
Yeah.
There's no coming back from that. He's done.
And he's the strong man. I mean, he could conceivably take out anybody except for Amazon Eve, apparently. But they were really going to have him take out the tiniest, most helpless person who trusts everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it does make sense that, and it's an interesting thing that he starts this whole pursuit with the biggest, strongest person in the freak show, and then is fuck it all, and then ends up with the smallest, most helpless person. But that is not enough to justify that ending. I mean. Yeah. I get the show. A big purpose of this show is to kind of wow the audience, exceed expectations, and do crazy things that don't happen on other shows. But there is actually a line, and I'm surprised out of all people I'm saying it because I mean I've been obsessing over Dandy and all the crazy shit he's been doing, but this was too much. I think it made me too sad. Yeah, I'm really upset that there's no more Ma Petite in this show.
Well, there is still. I mean, we have seen a lot of fake visions of that museum, so. Maybe this was all a dream. I don't think it was, but
I don't think it was either. To be honest, I feel like if they did that, I'd be like, that's kind of cheating. That sucks. But at the same time, I'd be so happy she's back. They might get away with it.
Yeah.
And they went to all the trouble to tell that story with Jimmy about getting a rabbit and skinning it and giving her this coat, and they're building her up just to take her out. I don't get it.
For a minute, I thought he was going to open that box and it was going to be a rabbit coat, and that was going to be a sign locking him in that Dell's on the right path now. This is okay. And I wish that happens because I don't think the show's doing a very good job with blurring the line between good guy and villain. It's the things that are working best on the show are either really noble characters like Jimmy or really despicable ones like Dandy. It's people like Elsa and Dell that are in this middle ground where they're supposed to be good and looking out for people, but they're fucking up all over the place. That's not working for me.
Yeah. Well, the one thing about Ma Petite is that she is loved by everyone, especially Elsa. So maybe this will turn Elsa around a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. If that's the payoff and it puts Elsa on the right track instead, I think I might be fine with that.
Right.
All right, so let's jump into rapid fire time, the point in the show where we get to discuss what we're looking forward to most in the episode to come. And because Dandy was kind of MIA this episode, I can't really go with my go-to guy, so I'm going to go with Penny and Paul. Obviously the father's actions were a little over the top and kind of unjustified as well, but, what's done is done, and I'm really interested in seeing how they handle it, because the tattoo was something that Paul did to himself because he wanted to make the world fear him, so I wonder how that's going to affect his relationship with her. I mean, we're under the impression that he loves her, but is looking at that going to be too much for him when it's got such a bad meaning to him? And how is she going to feel about it? Is she ever going to be able to adjust? I don't know, but I really want to see how that scenario plays out. Alexis, what do you got for us?
Well, I guess I just was really struck by this episode by hope and whether hope is dying or if there's still hope. Like Ethel seems to have given up on hope with her speech, but like Jimmy, who's maybe the most hopeful character, he has this new hope of this relationship with Dell. I'd like to see how he's going to react if he figures out what Dell did. I want Amazon Eve to have her revenge. Like, she was on the lookout. I was actually thinking that she would rush in and save Ma Petite because we had that shot of her watching Dell earlier. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how Dell's going to get his comeuppance. Hopefully he will.
I'm looking forward to that happening, and I do want some more Amazon Eve. I want her to get like a Paul type episode where she can just kill it on her own and have her own little storyline.
Yeah.
All right, Meg, what you got?
Gabby Sidibe. I cannot wait. I'm so glad they're bringing her back to pay up for that stupid scene with the phone and everything. But then we also see Gloria behind her. I think she has a gun in her hand. So I'm not trying to read too much into the previews, but it looks like Gloria's going to have her moment and kind of standing up for Dandy. And then Gabby Sidibe is going to come back and get some revenge. So really looking forward to seeing her again.
All right, so that is a wrap on Following Freak Show, Episode 7. Don't forget to keep an eye out for new installments the day after every episode of American Horror Story airs on Collider and also on our YouTube channel, Shock Till You Drop. And we love reading your comments, so keep leaving your thoughts in the comment section below, and we can maybe discuss your topics and ideas on next week's show. Just a heads up, next week is Thanksgiving, so there won't be a new episode of American Horror Story until December 3rd, and then we'll be back on December 4th to discuss all the crazy things that are bound to go down in Episode 8, which is called Bloodbath. So thank you so much for following Freak Show with us. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time.